I want to begin my talk by posing a question to you. And the first question is this thing that I'm holding here. What is this? I think you pretty much know the answer. It's of course a life preserver. And the question that I want you to consider is, what does this life preserver have to do with suicide? And the answer is everything. Absolutely everything. And if you allow me, I'll explain. On August 31st, 2011, I tried to kill myself. I tried to end my life by suicide. And I did this not because of what I was thinking. And I wasn't going to kill myself because of what I was feeling. I was going to kill myself because of what I believed. What I believed was I was worthless. I was useless. I was stupid. I was pitiful. I was grotesque. I was ugly. I was a burden. I was nothing but a deficit to my then wife, to the world, my brothers, my family, everybody. And most damning, most terrible belief, it wasn't true in the absolute sense, but what I believed it to be in that moment was that everybody would be so much better off without me. And so on that day, I was living about 2 hours north of San Francisco with my then wife, Deanna, on this beautiful 2.5-acre piece of property. I woke up on this beautiful day. It was Wednesday. I got in my red Dodge Dakota pickup truck and made a short 20-minute drive that I had made many times before. And this underscores a point that suicide is almost never spontaneous. I had ruminated on this at the time I was 48 years old for most all my life. And where I was driving was to what's known as the Forest Hill Bridge. Now, of course, everybody knows the world-famous Golden Gate Bridge. Almost nobody knows the Forest Hill Bridge, and it's 730 feet tall. It is 500 feet further off the ground than its more famous cousin. It's the fourth tallest bridge in the United States. And again, I had been here before. I knew where I was going to park on that day, so I parked my vehicle, turned off the motor. My hands went to the 10-2 position of the steering wheel, took a deep breath. I remember I clapped my hands and exited the vehicle. I had left the keys right in the center of the dash. Made sure of that. Crossed the road, went to the center of the bridge, and then turned to my left. And as you can imagine now, 730 feet, the view is spectacular. But I didn't look at the view out this way. I looked down, pressed my body up against the barrier and stretched my arms out, held on tight for at least a little while, and looked down at the North Fork of the American River. And in that moment, time, as I'm tracking right now, and as we know it on our watches and phones and everything else, it didn't exist because I don't know how long I was there. But I still felt everything. I felt the breeze. I remember the breeze coming up from the river. I felt the bounce of the bridge as all the cars went by, because bridges are designed to do that. But I don't know how long I was there, but thank God, literally thank God our Father, it was long enough for somebody to look upon this scene and think, oh dear God, this is not good. How can I help my brother in obvious distress? And they picked up the phone and they called 911, and a sheriff's deputy approached me from the left-hand side. And what he didn't do was make contact with me at all. What he did do was create connection. Because you see, connection creates hope, and hope, mighty, wonderful, incredible hope, saves lives. I was taken off the bridge to an emergency room and then to spend 15 days in a psychiatric facility, which is exactly where I needed to be. And when people found out where I was and why, they said, what? My middle name is Woods, and close friends and family call me Woody. And they're like, wait, what do you say? Woody? David Woods Bartley was going to kill himself because he thought he was worthless, because he thought he was useless, because he believed that we'd be better off without him? Like, nothing could be farther from the absolute truth, but that's the thing around this condition. And what really confused people, and the pictures behind me will make sense here in just a moment, that at the time married to this beautiful, my former bride, Deanna, who I still love and adore and communicate with on a regular basis, on this 2.5-acre piece of property that we lived on, we ran an animal sanctuary. And the sanctuary was called A Chance for Bliss. And because of the mama bear heart of my former bride, we took in the animals that nobody wanted. And we had at any one time as many as 100 animals. We had 25 horses. We had 23 dogs that, of course, lived in the house. We had 9 potbelly pigs. We had goats and sheep and ducks and geese and bunnies and birds and turtles and fish. We had 15 different species. But again, we took the ones that nobody wanted, the dying ones mostly, the crippled ones, the tortured ones, the abused ones, the blind ones, the missing limbs, anything that made them unwanted come to us. And so we did no adoptions. We were a forever home. And they stayed until they made their transition to the great pasture in the sky, to the heaven that all beings, especially the furry ones, deserve most. And it was a grand and amazing place, truly spectacular, clean and orderly, and the love, really because of what my former beloved, still beloved, was able to do to create ways to take care of animals that had not been cared for. That no animal lived as long as they were expected to live. They always lived longer, and they lived happily. They were in this experience of connection. And I watched beings that were completely in despair. In the words of the great Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he defines despair as suffering without meaning. Animals came literally on their last leg, and yet they bloomed until they made their transition. It was an extraordinary place. I watched how connection creates hope and how hope saves, enriches, supports life in every way, shape, or form. And on June 2nd, 2010, we were the cover story in the life section of USA Today. But 14 months later, there I was on a dark spot on a tall, tall bridge, one heavy thought away from killing myself. Sometimes, maybe most of the time, what hurts the most can't be seen. And nobody knew. Nobody knew that I had inherited the genetics of my grandfather who had killed himself when my father was just 5. My father, who in turn suffered horrifically from crippling depression and died of cancer plus depression back in the early 70s at just 40 years old. I inherited those genes that were lit afire like dry kindling when I was just 12, when I was sexually assaulted and subjected to horrific things that need no mention by a Boy Scout leader and told, David, remember, these are initiations and all the boys go through it, but we never talk about it. And in the words of the great Maya Angelou, who says, there is no greater agony than bearing the weight of an untold story, I kept it inside. And trauma can, oftentimes will, take lives. Trauma that erodes you, trauma that plants these horrific seeds of corrosive belief that are so not what God wants us to believe, but what we can believe because we don't share. We don't realize the truth of the great Lady Bird Johnson, who said people need to have the opportunity to hear it out loud. I knew none of that. And it just became part of me. And it makes no sense. You know, I'm blessed to work with kids quite a bit. And one day I was working with a group of second graders, believe it or not. And I asked them, I said, hey, do you guys think, is there a difference between sadness and depression? And I asked it, and the foundation of the question was because adults who don't know what it's like to suffer from depression, they think, well, you're just really, really sad. And I go, well, sadness is an aspect, but it's not all of it, believe me. You know? So I asked the kids, and they said, Mr. Bartley, of course there is. Yes, they looked at me like I was an idiot. I'm like, wow, okay. And I said, who wants to tell me what's the difference between sadness and depression? Little boy in the front row, hand is up. And he said, Mr. Bartley. And it was interesting. He had lowered his voice, so I had to lean in so I could listen. Mr. Bartley, it's simple. When you're sad, you know why. When you're depressed, you don't. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh my God, dear child. That's exactly right. I don't know why. I'm in like a Shangri-La taking care of animals, married to an amazing woman. Why do I feel this way? Why do I have this belief set? And you add that to what the great chef David Chang, who suffers and fights, I prefer that word, bipolar, says, when you're depressed, you're convinced that everything you think is true. All that together can lead a soul to think the world's going to be better off without me. And the emotional pain, which really defies an explanation. That's where I was. but it was connection. Connection on that day, and I will share what the officer did. Connection every single day since has moved me in this journey now, 11 years, from away from mental illness into the place of mental wellness, into the place of hope, into the place of which God has created each and every one of us to experience. And to go back to this, well, dude, okay, well, what about the whole life preserver thing? Well, I need to make a confession. I hate the term suicide prevention. I hate it. I do. Now, I love the people that are in the movement trying to defeat this monster, which I know we will one day, but defeat the monster. I love the intention behind it, that of course, but just the term, I think it's, at one point, I think it served a purpose, but now I don't think it does. But I didn't, up to this point, want to outwardly say that until I had what I thought was something to offer. And it really was. It was a few months ago. And I was walking my beloved golden retriever Percy and my pug Lexi, who is just to my right. You can't see her right now. She's napping. And God spoke to me. And he said, David, they don't call this an anti-drowning jacket. They call it a life preserver. And I'm like, oh my God, that's right. And then my mind went, I'm like, well, wait. Then I'm like, wait, when you get in a car, when you put part A and part B together and go click, that's not an anti-crash belt. That's a safety belt. Well, can't we do that with suicide? Can't we affirm? I mean, that's really what we're going for, is life preservation. And I like to define words when I'm going to use them in a talk. And so I knew what prevention meant. And I always go to the dictionary, the Cambridge Dictionary, because English people know the English language better than we do. So prevention is to intentionally stop something from happening. Got it? Clear? Understood. I said, well, what is preservation? That's so hot, because you know what preservation is defined as? Taking something of value and keeping it safe. I am like totally motivated by that. You know, coupled with the fact that we as human beings aren't really good at preventing anything. That's like not our strong point, but preservation is. We're inherently wired to preserve something of value and keeping it safe. And so what I'm asking us to do is now to be part of what I call Operation Preservation. And you got to have a good tagline. And here's the tagline God gave me for our mission now, which I would ask you to please join with me. It's make tomorrow possible. But you're still probably thinking, okay, brother, but what about the whole life preserver thing? Well, see, I'm not asking you to go out and buy a bunch of life preservers. What I'm going to ask you to do is to use the life preserver that you were born with, and it is this thing called connection. Connection creates this thing called hope, and a life preserver is not the only thing that floats. Hope floats. People will never kill themselves when they have the experience of hope. So what is hope? Hope, defined in the dictionary, the feeling that what is wanted can be had. If you line up 10,000s of me, suicidal, and you ask us to define, to declare, to say, describe by one word how we feel, we're all going to say the same thing. Hopeless. So if hope is the feeling that what is wanted can be had, you ask us the second question, what do you want? And see, most people think people who are suicidal want to die. No, that's not right. We want our pain to end. But what we believe is the only way that can happen is by ending our life. So you go back to hope. If you are in the place of suicidal and I connect with you and I give you this experience and you believe that you can have the end of your pain, you're safe, you're in that moment. And what I'm going to share with you is you can connect with anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere. I promise you. Like, I do this. This is what I do all day long because it enriches me too. Because the giver and the receiver, we know that we're intricately, I can't say the word. You know what I mean? We're connected. And of course, even more than that is we know the scripture We know, and it's written in all the different great faiths, when two or more are gathered. But what is connection? And while this is not in the dictionary, it should be. It's Brene Brown. I define connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, when they feel heard, and when they feel valued. When they can give and receive without judgment, and they derive strength and sustenance from the relationship. Look, if I had a mic, I'd drop it, because what else is there? That's life. How can you have any other experience but hope out of that? Like, with God, all things are possible. Well, that there's billions of people on the planet for a reason. Like, sure, we need time to go apart into the upper room, as we're told, but we also need these experiences of connection. And what I'm going to share with you, there are 3 ways that I would like you to please just practice every single day, everywhere you go. Because here's the reality. And this is not just my opinion. Let me give you somebody who's an expert. So Dr. Drew Ramsey, he's a psychiatrist. He's a wild man on Instagram. Check him out. He's big into brain-gut health, about how nutrition can overcome these issues of mental illness. And here's what he says. And he's a great counselor of beings who are suffering. See, I like to use the word suffering when it comes to mental illness in this, because suffering is about pain. Struggle is about effort. This is pain. So here Dr. Ramsey says, someone you see today is thinking about killing themselves. Your smile, your question, your love could save them. Trust me, they told me it did. Okay, there it is. We could stop right now, but no, I got more to say, got more to share. What I'm going to say really just expands upon what Dr. Ramsey said. It's about 3 methods of connection that you can do anytime, any place, anywhere. And it's recognition, it's expression, and it's understanding. So the first thing I want you to do is to practice to become great, not good. I want you to become great at remembering and using people's names. And the reason I'm so emphatic about that is because there are so many people that we see them, they look like they're okay. We don't know. Remember, sometimes, I think most of the time, what hurts the most can't be seen. And the simple act of calling somebody forth by their name can bring a person out, feel like, God, you see me. You give them what I call an experience of matter. So next time you go fill up at a gas station, and maybe you go inside to grab a Coke or something, and the person is wearing a name tag, let me just say, they know their name. That name tag is for you. It's not for them. Call them by their name. Ask them how their day's going. Thank them for their service. Whatever it is. Just the people where you go to the gym, the person that you check in, just get to know their name, and then find out what their spouse's name is. Find out what their kid's name is. Find out what their dog's name is. Listen for the important dates. These small little acts of recognition can change a person's life. And the homework assignment that I'm going to give you is, next time you go to a restaurant, every time that server who is feeding you, every time they come to the table, use their name. Not every other, not every third. Every time they come to the table, use their name. Hey, Sally, can I have a little bit more of this? Hey, Sally, do you have a favorite item on the menu? Sally, is this your Monday or your Friday? Sally, hey, how are you doing today? So a friend of mine, he does this every time he goes out. And he called me the other day. He said, "Oh, dude, I got to tell you what happened." So he and his beloved went out, had this amazing waitress named Brenda. Every time Brenda came, he used the name, and he could just tell. He said, "David, I watched how it's like she was changing in front of me. She became even more engaged and more connected." And my buddy said, "David, she dropped off the bill, and she said thank you." And my friend looked up at her and he said, "Oh, you're very welcome." And then she took her hand and placed it right on his arm. He said, "David, it felt like an angel was touching me." He said, "I got goosebumps." There was just something about the way she did it. And she said, "No, thank you. Thank you for using my name, because it's the first time in a long time I felt like somebody saw me." That's what you can do. That simple thing. Practice. Please do this thing. Realize what Dale Carnegie said. It said, to a person, the sound of that person's name is the sweetest sound in any language. Give that gift of connection. Give this experience of hope to that person. So that's recognition, all about names. That's the first method of connection. Second is expression. We got to let people know how we feel. We do. I'm not going to accept that, like, well, I know I love him. Well, wait, does I love you ever get too old? Like, oh, please stop telling me you love me because I'm tired of it. Stop telling me you think I'm a badass, like I'm amazing. It's just like We all need it. And when you think about somebody, use your phone, send them a text. Be timely, be specific, be authentic. Just use any occasion to express yourself, to let people know how you feel. And realize as that expression comes through you, just like when you remember somebody's name, you get to enjoy the benefits as well. So until 5 years ago, August 31st of every year was the worst day of the year for me. I'm a January baby. I'm not a big fan of summer anyway. It's kind of funny that my wife now, her name is, wait for it, Summer. So here, 5 years ago, here's August 31st comes, and I'm triggered. It's the day, even though I was saved and everything else. It's just like, oh, things can trigger us, and so no one wants to be around me, and understandably so. I'm not in my usual happy kind of sound. And so I go to the mailbox and I kind of rip through the mail, come to this last, and there's an envelope, beautiful handwriting on it, no return address. I rip it open. It's this card. This card. It's a picture of a freaking rock. It says, advice from a glacier. Come on, man, not today. Not today. Carve your own path. Go slow. Channel your strengths. Smooth the way for my whatever. And I'm gonna throw the card away. I don't want this thing. The hand of God. Open the card. Happy today. Happy today. Written from my beloved friend Greg, who I met in a men's depression support group many years ago. Who knew? He said, I'm thinking my brother, that might be a tough day. Let me do something. Let me express. Hey, just a note to remind you that you are an extraordinary person with so much to give so many others. You're a tremendous source of healing just by your personable presence. This is not only my sentiment. So many others also believe in you. Believe in yourself. Reject the lies. I love you. You know what this expression did? This card. You know what it did? You know what August 31st is now? It's not the worst day of the year. That's New Year's Day. You may celebrate January 1st. Mine is August 31st. You know what my celebration is? I drive back to the bridge. And I park in the very same spot that I did all those years ago, 14 years ago. And I make my way to the midpoint. And I don't look down. I'm not going down. I look out, take in the view. I give thanks. Happy New Year. And the first time I did this celebration, I turned around and literally ran into the call box. It's bright yellow. I don't know if it was there on August 31st, 2011, but it was there the first year I had this new celebration. This method of connection, pick up the phone and call. Seen, heard, valued, hope. And there's a sign on the top of the box. And you can't make this up. You know what the sign says? There is hope. Make the call. There is hope. Make the call. So we have recognition, all about names. We have expression, just anyway, text, phone call, card, in person, whatever it is. People need to hear it. Because people need that experience of connection. Because people need hope. And the last is understanding. And this is what we see is almost never what is. It isn't. And oftentimes when we see something that doesn't make sense, we often will leverage the question of why. And I want us now to promise that we will never ask a why question again, because if I ask you why, you have to defend yourself. You have to explain yourself. You have to give a whole list of reasons. I will ask you what. It's not why did you do that, is what inspired you to do that? Because now I've invited you to share. Everybody wants to share. So we became very well known in the community for taking in animals that nobody wanted, and especially old animals, especially dying animals. So we get a call one day, and here's how one of our all-time favorite residents, as we called the animals, came to the sanctuary. So an old man, 80 plus years old, had walked into an animal shelter. One of those great places that amazing people work at and see they don't get a lot of happy endings. And he brought with him this old basset hound. It was swayed back, caramel colored, no teeth on the right hand side, so his tongue hung out. He was an old dog. So the man had walked up to the person who worked there and said, "Hi, ma'am. Um, I was out on my walk today and I came upon this dog and I checked him from head to toe. He has no collar. There's no identification. I can't, as much as I would love to, because I'm old and know what it's like to be old and feel unwanted. I can't keep him, so I thought I should bring him here." And the woman was like, "Oh my God, sir, thank you so much. Most people would have just walked on by, but you stopped. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And she looked at him and said, "Yeah, he's old. I mean, he's probably well into his teens." And she said, they didn't microchip back then, and he's probably not microchip, but who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe our prayers will be answered, that we can reunite him with his family, because he's obviously, that's what we hope. And so she said, "I'll take him in the back. We have a machine that scans. And if you don't mind, sir, just give me your name and number and where you found him, in case I need to get in touch with you, hopefully with a happy ending, I could call you." So he says, "No problem." So he takes the piece of paper and begins to fill it out. And she takes the dog in the back, and some time passes. And as the story was told to us, you could literally hear her scream, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" And she comes rushing back out carrying that basset hound. Is pretty good size, but the worker is holding him. Tears. She says, "He's microchipped. His name is Joshua." Like, "Sir, you saved his life. I have the guardian's number, where his family's number. I can call them, and I know they'll be so grateful to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And the man was like, "It's okay, it's okay, it's all right. Just want to do the right thing." And so he gives the paper to her, and he's just about out the door when the worker just looks at the paper, and there's something about the information on there that triggers something in her mind, and she compares it with the information on the microchip, and it matches. This is his dog. Now, had I been there, there would have been no what questions at all. There would have been a lot of why questions laced with words we don't say in church. Let's just say that. I'd be like, "Are you kidding me? Dear God, like, are you lying?" But I wasn't there. God was there in the form of this amazing woman, because she looked at a scene and says, something's not right. This cannot be the truth. And so, you know what she said? She looked at this man caught in a bullseye, frozen. She said, "Sir, what happened?" And at that moment, he burst into tears. And when he could finally collect himself, he said, "Yes, this is Joshua. I've had Joshua for 16 years. There's nothing more important to me in the world than my dog. I've had him since he was the cutest, most perfect 8-week-old basset hound in the world, but I'm dying. I have maybe a week or so to live, and tomorrow I'm going into a facility, and for the last month, knowing I was going there, I begged and I pleaded with them to please let me have my dog with me. I offered to pay, but they said no, no, no. And I knew if I came in here and told you the truth that you'd put Joshua to sleep, but I know he's not ready. I am, he's not. I'm so sorry." And because of a question, because of somebody asking a question and creating the space for somebody, in the words of Lady Bird Johnson, to heard out loud, she knew, she understood. And when we understand, all things are possible. And she said, "Sir, there's a sanctuary down the hill. And the only kind of dog they take are dogs just like Joshua. How about we pick up the phone and call and see if they have room for one more?" And we did have room for our beloved Joshua, who lived for more than a year until he passed one night in his sleep to go see his beloved Papa up in heaven. That's the power of understanding. That's the power when we create the space for somebody to tell their story. And it was the second question that the officer asked me. First question that he asked me, David, would you please share with me how you are feeling right now? But the second question is, I think, the most powerful question we can use in any relationship. He said, what can I do to help you feel supported right now? And you see, what he didn't say was, what can I do for you? Because we say, no, I'm good. What he said was, what can I do to help you feel supported right now? And with the answer to that question, in seeking to understand, comes the ability to create the experience of hope. The quality of our relationships is based on the quality of our questions, and the quality of our questions, not asking why, but instead asking what or how things can be radically different. It's all about connection. It's all about recognition, becoming focused and becoming great at remembering using people's names. It's all about expression, letting people know how we feel, what they mean to us, giving them an experience of matter. And it's all about seeking to understand things that we don't understand by leveraging curiosity to arrive at that level, even space, where we realize that we are in fact connected, giving people the experience of having them feel seen, heard, and valued. And with this comes hope. I think the single greatest weapon of all against the issue of suicide. And I'll end with this, with a quote from an amazing young man named Matthew on Twitter. And here's what he says hope is. He says, people think of hope as this delicate, ephemeral thing made up of whispers and spider webs. It's not. Hope has dirt on her face, blood on her knuckles, the grit of cobblestones in her hair, and she just spit out a tooth as she rises for another go. That's hope. And we can give that to anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere, and make a difference that will grant us an experience of peace and understanding beyond words. I send you my love, my thanks, and my blessings. God bless you.